Well, hello, darlings and lovers of the macabre, and welcome back to Musey's Modern Dreadfuls and Tales of Terror. And without much ado, let's hop right back into We Should Have Never Played in the Junkyard, Part 2, and away we go. It was probably the longest time we'd spent away from Delia's land. Being away didn't stop us from constantly speculating, once we knew we were safe, of course. There were moments where we rationalized to the best of our ability, but it didn't take long for that to descend into stranger explanation. And when the rational answers clearly couldn't apply anymore, we had to go back. It's strange. Delia's land is so expansive that it's kind of hard to find the same place 2 days in a row. We found other fields of fridges and other appliances, but not the field with that refrigerator. It took 2 weeks and almost forgetting about it entirely for us to stumble upon it once again. We both went straight to that same old fridge. It looked like it could have been blue in its heyday, but years of rust and sunshine had faded it away. The door had been closed again. It wasn't nearly as hard for the two of us to get it open this time. We found it unsurprisingly empty. The two of us stood there in silence for a moment before it seemed like Mick got an idea. "Close me inside!" He climbed in before I could protest and started trying to pull the door closed on himself, which clearly wasn't working. I didn't immediately step forward to help and instead protested. What if the door gets stuck? How am I going to explain that to my mom? Ah! He laughed as he continued to try to pull the door closed, rocking the fridge and nearly knocking it over. "I can hold my breath a real long time. You'll figure out the rest." Sighing, I resigned myself to closing the door on him, though not all the way initially. I could hear him from inside. "All the way! All the way!" The door touched the frame and settled there. I stepped back and stood again in silence. A few seconds passed. "Hey, what's it like?" No answer, not even a muffled one. I rolled my eyes and stepped back towards the fridge, grabbing and yanking the door back open with surprising ease. "Yeah, you're not gonna scare me." Empty. For a moment, it was like my brain just stopped functioning. I stared dumbly at the rusted back of the old fridge. Before my thoughts arranged themselves, I already felt myself stepping forward and touching inside, pushing hard against the back, smacking it, punching at it in a frightened panic. I started yelling for Mick, yelling into the empty fridge. I was becoming more and more frantic until rationality started to pull me back again. I backed off and began searching the other appliances, tearing doors open and frantically yelling for my friend. I opened every single damn door on every fridge, deep freeze unit, and oven with no luck. He wasn't behind them or among the outlying piles of trash. He was just gone. As if on cue, or maybe even her own instinct, Delia approached from somewhere unseen. "What is going on here? Y'all gotta find somewhere else to play." She stopped and looked around at all the open doors, concerned. "Hey, where's that other kid?" I started to break down. I could barely explain through the sudden burbles of sobs that were coming from somewhere inside my gut. My mind couldn't make sense of what was happening. But Delia didn't seem particularly shocked and just sighed before going around and closing all the doors, shaking her head as she got to her work. She kept repeating, "This is bad. This is bad for us, kid. This is real bad." Once all the doors were closed again, she came back over to me. "Show me which unit he went into." I led her over to the spacey 60s fridge. She closed and opened the door a few times with no change. She backed off and sat down on an old toaster oven. At first, I thought she was deep in worried thought, but after 15 minutes or so, it became clear that she was waiting for something. Then there it was again, the creak and groan of a rusted hinge. It sounded like it was desperately trying to open against time's toll. Only this time, it was from one of those meat storage freezers that open from the top. Whatever was crouched inside had pushed the lid up just a sliver. Glossy, silver, bauble-like eyes peered out from the darkness inside. They were round and wide, with no iris and pupils in them. These reflective eyes looked truly sinister, long dead, and lifeless. But a sort of lifeless that would suck your soul in. The closest I can come to describing their color is a cascaded swirl of chrome. Just as the lid started to close again, Delia leapt to her feet and barreled towards the freezer. It noticed and tried to retreat faster, but couldn't disappear before the surprisingly spry old woman had yanked the door open entirely and peered inside. Her face was painted with both fear and fury as she shouted inside, "Don't you dare run, you coward bitch!" A scream erupted from somewhere deep inside the freezer. It was high-pitched and almost reminded me of the metallic squeaking of those hinges. A deadly, black, disgustingly contorted hand reached up toward Delia and gripped her hard on her arm. It yanked her a little, but she wasn't budging. Instead, she reached her other arm down with it. "You give that kid back, God damn you!" It was clear that she was trying to pull that thing out of its hiding place. Every instinct in me told me to run, but I couldn't move. My legs became jelly beneath me, and I'd knelt down moments before without even noticing. She'd gotten some good pull on the thing, and I was starting to become overwhelmingly frightened that I would have to see those disgusting dead, shiny, chrome-like eyeballs again, but it seemed it had also started to realize that she had the upper hand. It let go of her arm, and she let go in return. Then she was holding onto something heavy, pulling it up to the surface. He'd come up head first, Delia pulling him under the shoulders with all her might. Mick was unconscious and dirty, looking like he'd been gone for days when it had been no more than an hour. As the last of his legs came up, she collapsed backwards and barely dodged his body toppling onto her. My own body was finally responding to my brain again, and I sprinted over to them. She was already trying to shake him awake with no response. It was only when I knelt down and began begging him to wake up did his eyes start to flutter again. Then his entire face scrunched up in pain as blood began to pool from his tear ducts and run down his face. Pain overwhelmed his body and he screamed. He started yelling, "My eyes! My fucking eyes!" Delia quickly rose to her feet and began to leave. "You stay with him. I'm calling 911. You better come up with a good story by the time they get here, kid." I tried to comfort him through his wails and pain, but I was overwhelmed and terribly frightened. I couldn't stop my eyes from darting between each and every appliance in the field, terrified of seeing those swirly, sickly baubles peeking out again. And that was part 2 of We Should Have Never Played in the Junkyard. And like I said, it wasn't a regular junkyard. It was a yard of junk. But I hope you enjoyed. And I wanted to let you all know that sometime in December, coming right up, we will be having the huge collab on Dr. Creepin's channel again. That's how some of you wound up meeting me to begin with. So that will be lots of fun. A lot of talented creators and narrators and writers have pitched in, and Doc, hey, he's the best. So check that out. It will be in December. Delaying any, I don't know, last minute emergencies or whatever. But we've all been working very hard, so I hope you come and see it. I'll let you know when it's closer. All right, my loves, I will talk to you soon. I hope you had a great holiday. Whether or not it was a holiday for you, I hope you had a good one. All right, bye now.